When an organization or a nation faces an existential threat, the true nature of its leadership is instantly exposed. To understand exactly how extreme pressure fractures command, we can look at a case study in crisis management found in the historical text of 1 Samuel chapter 14. This diagram shows a massive Philistine military force rapidly suffocating a tiny, isolated pocket of Israelites. The defending army is outgunned and overwhelmingly outnumbered. That severe imbalance in firepower creates a crushing psychological weight. The vast majority of the Israelite camp is paralyzed, their morale has collapsed, and a deep-seated fear has locked the entire army into a state of frozen inaction. Trapped inside this pressure cooker are two central figures holding authority: King Saul, the nominal head of state, and his son, Prince Jonathan, who operates as a field commander. This dynamic presents an interesting case study in lineage. While people often assume a leader's character and response to stress are strictly inherited, the outcome of this specific crisis suggests that a son's actions can diverge sharply from his father's precedents. Both men are staring at the exact same encroaching enemy. By tracking how each of them processes this identical threat, we can identify the specific mechanics that separate a fear-driven panic from effective, faithful execution. Let's look at the son's approach first. While the entire camp suffers from a collective collapse in morale, Jonathan refuses to adopt their defensive posture. He rejects the paralysis. His mental framework is different. Instead of auditing the enemy's superior weaponry, Jonathan views the opposition through a strict spiritual lens. He refers to the Philistines as the uncircumcised, leaning into his own standing with God rather than dwelling on a hardware deficit. This framing drives his strategy. As we see in this diagram, Jonathan splits off from the main paralyzed force. He initiates a calculated, stealth offensive, and he takes exactly one person with him: his armor-bearer. He bases this maneuver on the belief that when God acts, victory is detached from troop counts. As his armor-bearer agrees to the plan and twists together with him into a single unit, their alignment creates a highly concentrated force of two. The tactical result is immediate. This tiny strike team strikes the larger force, catching them off guard. The Philistine lines fracture, panic spreads, and the overwhelming army begins collapsing into absolute chaos. This outcome suggests that when a large group is locked in a defensive crouch, the path forward is often cleared not by the crowd, but by the specific, calculated action of a unified minority. Meanwhile, back at the main camp, we have to look at how King Saul is handling that exact same window of time. Saul lacks Jonathan's grounded confidence. Feeling the pressure of command slipping away, he tries to manufacture authority. He bypasses actual strategy and defaults to a religious performance to create the appearance of control. To force a sense of urgency, Saul issues a reactionary military order. He binds his own troops with a strict oath, legally forbidding a single soldier from consuming any food until the battle is completely won. You cannot run a combat operation on 0 calories. A heavy fog of fatigue immediately settles over the Israelite army. The men suffer from physical exhaustion, their vision blurs, and their ability to fight drops to near zero. Jonathan, however, was out in the field and never heard his father's decree. Coming across some wild honey in the forest, he eats. Almost instantly as he consumes it, his physical energy returns and his mental clarity sharpens. When he rejoins the main force and sees the physical state of the men, Jonathan realizes the consequence of the order. His father's attempt to look like a strong leader has actively hindered the army's ability to capitalize on the victory they were just handed. Ego-driven mandates dictated by panic do not produce discipline. They bind, exhaust, and ultimately blind the very people they are intended to lead. So, what is the underlying engine driving this difference in performance? Why does the son move with courage, while the father spins into counterproductive panic? The text points to their respective foundations. Jonathan operates from a direct, personal working knowledge of God's character. Saul is merely leaning on the optics of religion, going through the motions without an internal anchor. That distinction is relevant today. Modern believers find themselves in a similar position to Jonathan, operating as a minority facing a wall of cultural opposition. In that environment, a primary vulnerability is a reliance on second-hand faith. This diagram illustrates what happens when you outsource your spiritual understanding. If you rely entirely on external commentators or philosophers to interpret the text for you, the original truth passes through the filters of their opinions. By the time it reaches you, the signal is fragmented. The fix is to bypass the middleman. To build real operational confidence, you must read the text of the Bible directly, studying the mechanics of its promises and understanding its positions for yourself. This brings us back to that moment in the woods. Jonathan's physical recovery wasn't accidental. It was the direct result of consuming the honey himself. Similarly, courage isn't an abstract feeling, but a byproduct of a mind that has personally digested the specific promises found in the source. Securing victory means stepping out of the cycle of empty, exhausting performance. You don't have to starve under the frantic rulings of others. You simply have to be willing to taste the truth for yourself.